Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Brendan Fraser, whose acclaimed performance in The Whale has left audiences in tears and giving standing ovations so far this season. And the film comes out later in December. Brendan, congratulations on this performance. I wanted to start with you talking about how you prepared physically and mentally to play Charlie, because I feel like it's such obviously an incredible undertaking, and how you kind of started when you were in your prep.
To physically play the role, clearly Charlie had to be created from the outside in. He's a man whose body on paper is hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and to create that, a great deal of costuming, shaped wardrobe, and prosthetic makeup were needed to give a reality and authenticity to the way he moves, the way his body moves. And the mandate on that was that it always observe gravity and physics, unlike so many waking costumes we've seen in films in previous years, which are normally in service of a one-note mean joke, or they just are inauthentic. An athletic actor in a sort of costume that's a silhouette and filled with, batting from a stuffed animal or something like that. And this is not that. And to do that, simply put, in a cyber model, a mold was made to have absolute control over the shape, the size of the placement of even the pores of Charlie's skin, and then just all the traditional methods of putting applications to the face and wearing the components of his body, his arms and legs, as being attached to an elaborate harness with a modular bodysuit, and then costuming to cover it. It was a process that took hours and hours to get into, worth it, and an hour to get out of. But the sense of authenticity that you see when watching Charlie is eye-opening, and I attest that this is not a CGI creation, with the exception of perhaps if the piece of fabric on the shirt was in its own movie that morning and doing what it needs to, that got a like curative later. Other than that, it was really like working sort of in an analog way, and then forgetting all of that and just playing the part who he is as a varied human being.
I'm struck by the performance because you could feel, you could feel him as like a real person, and you are able to shine so much humanity through the character as well. Was the amount of prep that you had to do physically every day, did it help you kind of get into the mindset of playing him?
Well, the screenplay by Sam D. Hunter, who also wrote the stage play, and adapted his own work for his own first time screenplay. And it sounds like a joke, but he got Pro Tools to figure out how to write a screenplay for what he did. Sam Hunter was an English teacher, and Sam Hunter also did live the circumstances of Charlie's life for some time. So it comes from a place of personal authenticity. He knows what he's writing about and the reason why. Our rehearsal process was 3 weeks. A24 gave us that amount of time to learn how to do this, and Darren declared us a theater company, and we worked in a rehearsal hall that was taped out on the floor 1-to-1 with standby props and furniture. We made all our mistakes out loud there. They learned where to place their cameras in this small 2-bedroom apartment, because that's the world of the film. And by the time we got to the actual built set, imagine that, we knew our job. We knew how to perform, because there's a lot of times when you're making movies, actors stand around at their sides and it would be cool if we, that none of that happened. We already had it all planned out, because there are always going to be factors that are challenging or extraneous or getting in the way. I should mention that one big one was clearly that this was a film that was made at the pinnacle of the pandemic. And just as we all, everyone in the world, we were there, lived under existential threat, something about doing that, I know for myself, for us as a cast, it made us feel like there may be no tomorrow, so we may never be able or allowed to do this again. If those are the circumstances, you're going to put everything you've got into it and lose all the flourishes and curly cues that you would decorate a performance with, and just go straight to the heart of all the matter. And I can see it when I see this film, and I can see the care that we had for one another. It's a unique period to see films that were made under these circumstances. All the films that are under consideration this year that were made at that time, they all share that common denominator.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned obviously this great cast that you're with, and I know you've been so gracious, giving props to Sadie and Hong and Samantha. I want to ask you, when you're playing those scenes with them, and Ty as well, not to besmirch him either, but how did their performances help you understand Charlie further, or did that, or at all, did that happen, or how did you kind of
Absolutely.
figure out Charlie from them, I guess?
We found it together. Everything you need to know is really on the page. But again, like I said, we rehearsed it, so we knew the 1, 2, 3s. But you can put that aside. But never overlook I'm 53 years old. I've been doing this for a long time. I still don't know the components of the voodoo alchemy that goes into giving an actor's performance, and what makes it, I don't know, so-called work or not work. What I do know is the relationships that you build with the people that you're working with, and the trust that you put in one another. And also, in this case, I needed only to look into Hong's eyes and just try and reflect the authenticity she has on board to work with. Hong has an uncanny ability to say more in between lines of dialogue, in the pauses. You can read her mind. She's missing a layer or something that makes her transparent that way. And she's so good that, and Darren likes to shoot a lot, take after take. I'm cool with that, but he go, all right, well, we got it. Hong, just I don't know, show off for us, impress us, because he just wanted to see what she would do. He's like, hey, we're here, you might as well. And same goes with Sadie Sink. I watched Sadie Sink, this young actress, not bloom, but come of age before my very eyes. And I had a front row seat. Watch that happen. I got lost in those emerald green eyes of hers every day. I would go up on my lines because I would become mesmerized just looking at her. She's a jewel. You can look at a finely cut jewel and then turn it that way, and you see another facet again. Sadie's like that, and it's thrilling to behold. Ty Simpkins earned his stripes on this movie. He really did. I saw him grow up on it, and it's exciting to see a young actor come to. Sam Morton, she was there for 2 days. She was, I think, directing in the UK. Well, for the time that we had her, she came in, had like a 30-year relationship already in place to play Charlie's ex-wife, who he hasn't seen for a long time, on top of her just basically being brilliant. So we were very fortunate and to have everyone together in the same place at the same time to shoot this intimate play about 5 characters on a quest in search for salvation.
Yeah, for sure. I read, you mentioned Darren, I read a quote, I think that you guys had done interviews, obviously, and you had said like he wanted maybe to reintroduce someone for the role, and you were looking to be reintroduced, I think is how you kind of like put it. And I guess like, why, I mean, obviously, like you're saying, like it's on the page and all these things, but like, what was it about Charlie for you that felt like this was the right role for you to want to be reintroduced with, I guess?
Well, it moved me deeply to grow to learn the material when I was allowed to have sight of it after, the process of meeting Darren. And for what it stood for is what really got my engine going and gave me a sense of purpose. And I'll just say it gave me a sense of moral obligation. I want to play Charlie with the dignity that he deserves. He is not the physical manifestation of how he presents in his corporal being. He is a human with his conflict, his darker shades, his mistakes, his hopes, his desires, all of that's there. To come into the possibility of seeing a role like that available or under contention, you can't just fill out a form and say, yeah, I'll take the job. It doesn't work that way. And to put my faith in Darren, it ticks all the boxes that say, yes, I want to be a part of this. And it wasn't a reintroduction or something to specify that. Is the best I can do is say that I was never that far away. And actors got to work. I always have done. I plenty of reasons I needed to take some personal time in my career and life, but memories are, varied to short, depending on who in this super saturated world of personalities that we live in right now. It was just practically, I think, a good choice to step into a role that would play counterpoint to whatever the expectations would have had been in for what people believed me to be capable of. I've always felt earlier in my career in life that diversity was key. And so I'd always try and, make something wildly different. But in this case, yeah, I didn't want to take the obvious choice. This was one that was, I had the potential to be more eye-opening. And so, yeah, that's a good way to do that.
No, yeah, and we have to wrap up here, but I just want to say, like you mentioned, like you're taking from the beginning. I feel like when we were just thinking about prepping for this, it's like your breakout year was probably like 92. You had Encino Man and School Ties, which are vastly different, but obviously like kind of like, I think, very memorable movies. And I was thinking like those characters were both outsiders in their own way. And obviously I think you could see that through line with Charlie too, as an outsider, and kind of like, I don't know, you just have a way of, I think you really are great at playing those kind of characters, no matter what the scale is. Not to compare like the work you're doing in The Whale to maybe what you did with Encino Man or School Ties, though. Like I said, I think those movies are great too. I just find that really, you have a real capacity for that kind of character. And I don't think, I think like this is another great part. I mean, did you do you think of that as, we do have to wrap up, but do you think of that like playing outsiders at all? Or is that like, am I just like reading too much into it at all? I guess.
That's okay. Hey, look, we've been around campus, clearly, you and I. Those characters are essentially, they're us. They're the people who have felt like they want to belong, they want to fit in. Charlie wants to be accepted by his daughter, and he doesn't know if or not he can be. But for those watching who want to see the film answer that question, I think we did it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, great place to wrap up. Brendan Fraser, acclaimed performance in The Whale, will be talked about a lot throughout awards season. Thank you so much, Brendan. I really appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you. Bye.
bye for now.